Well, what's going on, everybody? Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. Looking forward to this one because it's basically been since my bird dog days since I have actually had a guest join me on the show. And today we're going to actually try out vMix collar and see how well that works. So fingers crossed that works well. But as you probably see in the title, today we are doing kind of one of our NAB wrap-up / like what's next type of conversations. And today we're going to talk about RESI. And so RESI is actually a service that my congregation uses. It's one of our primary like backbones. It's the last piece in the chain before everything goes up to social media. And we're going to explain how it all works and where it kind of fits in your workflow. But I could do that, which would be kind of boring. But I could also bring somebody in that would be able to handle that for us and probably speak a whole lot more fluently in that regards. And so I'm not going to make them hang around in the wings any longer. I'm going to bring them on in. Please welcome Jeremy back to the show. It's been a long time. So how are you, man?
Hey, yeah, it's been a while, John.
For sure.
It's funny. I just noticed because you had your little monogram up in the corner. We have the same initials. So
Yep.
It's like,
yeah,
JK
I put you
show.
in on my phone today. And I was like, oh, I don't want this to go to spam. So I like made a contact for you. And I was like, oh, his thing is JK as well. So there you go.
Meant to be.
Yes. Good times. And what's great is you're also in the chat. And so there you are. Now there's a face to a name here in the socials. Yeah, great, man. I'm really excited. Oh, and I should also mention, so Jeremy is the guy that supported the idea of me getting an Ember mug all those years ago. And although the battery is in rough shape, together we are Ember mug / coffee brothers. And so today's non-sponsor is brought to you twice, not by Ember mugs. Keep your coffee hot and your creamer curdled. And the secondary non-sponsor today is a new coffee that I received in the mail. It's called Shock Coffee. Allegedly has 50% more caffeine. And that's what we all need. We need John on
possible?
More caffeine. I don't know. Now, I was reading this downstairs as I was making it, and I actually don't see anywhere on here where they claim that. But that is what's claimed on Amazon. So it's okay. It's got a good flavor to it. It's not something that I would necessarily subscribe to every 3 months. I don't need another bag of it. But I'm all about finding and trying coffees. I used to be about spicy food, and I'm kind of over the hill with that since I've breached 40. But also, I drink a lot of coffee. So trying some new coffees, that's always good. And
Well, is it just because it's like a light roast or something?
No, it's a dark roast. It's like a mid to dark roast, this one. But shockcoffee.com, I got it on Amazon for like 10 or 12 bucks or something like that. And I thought, all right, well, we'll try it and see, if I get all shaky or not. And I did. This isn't my first attempt at it. I did have it yesterday. But yesterday was an odd day because I proceeded to go outside. I had 21 tons of topsoil delivered. And on my front lawn. And so I was shoveling and getting calluses yesterday and filling so my wife has some vegetable garden, like flower beds in the backyard. And so yesterday's job was to get those full and ready to go for planting season because it's underway right now. So anyways, I worked on that pretty much all afternoon. So I don't know if the caffeine kicked in or not because I was pretty much tired for 3 hours. So we'll find out today. I've just started drinking that, and we'll see how that goes.
So hopefully you had some protein because
yes, that's heavy on my to-do list. What's going on, Chad? The Just Kidding boys. It's true. We're just a couple of jokesters over here.
Right.
It's good stuff. Good stuff. Okay, so I've ranted about a bunch of stuff. Anything that you want to say before we jump into the content of today?
No, except having met John. Well, we haven't officially met in person, I don't think.
2019 is where I met you at NAB in New York. That's where we made that initial connection when you were with Telstream.
yeah, I was with Telestream at the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, NAB New York. Stopped by the Bird Dog booth,
Hmm.
met you, Eamon, Dan,
Yep.
and it was an awesome connection. I mean, what I for the longest time I think I could tout that I sold more Bird Dog cameras than like the sales team over
Yeah,
there at Bird Dog.
for sure.
But it was just they're great products and paired well with Wirecast at the time, and yeah, it was just a good season, a lot of fun, made some great connections there.
Yep.
um, but yeah, miss those days, and we definitely need to link up at another trade show and do
For sure.
coverage, because your coverage of NAB was like it was what I was looking for. I always look for good coverage of NAB products if I'm not able to go,
Yeah.
and nobody really had that.
I was really surprised by the lack of coverage while it was happening. Like the couple of weeks after things kind of trickled out,
Yeah,
but in particular, like what I was looking for, like I wanted to see, like even companies didn't really do very well being a presence online while at NAB, because NAB has 30, 40,000 people at it, which is great, but
yeah,
there are tens of or hundreds of thousands of people that are kind of like not able to go. It's the same thing with
right,
Amsterdam, right? Like when that show goes on, I can't go to that one and I want to see coverage. And it's always like, it's almost like, well, if you weren't here, you don't get to find out. I thought, like, what sort of business practice is that? Like, no, you
right.
want to definitely be a presence online and be like, here's what you missed. You got to come next year. It's so cool. Like hype up NAB, but also hype up your products. And
Yeah,
yeah, I was out to find some specific things, and I figured I know tons of people that Tom Sinclair didn't go, and he's like, he always goes. And so life gets in the way and things get busy. I actually don't know why, but like, okay, well, if you're not going to be there, I'll be there and I'll at
right.
least try and put something up. I had to
One
really
like
be disciplined about like, okay, I got to get the camera out. And the guy I was with,
right.
Dave, he's actually in a couple of the videos, like off the side. I was hoping I wasn't annoying him, but then when he saw what I was putting up, then he's like, "Oh, it makes sense then. Like, what's going on?"
Yeah, yeah. Paul Richards would always do a good coverage, but then there's always the slant to what they're doing at PTZ Optics and all that sort of stuff.
Sure.
But even he didn't put up content this year, which I was kind of shocked about.
Yeah, I was really surprised just by the lack of, just the lack of content getting up, especially because it seemed like this year's thing was the ease of getting content online. Like that was the big thing.
Well,
Last year was AI. The year before there were like themes, and as I walked around the floor, I didn't really feel like something was predominant in terms of like this is what everybody's talking about. There was some cloud stuff, some AI stuff, but
yeah,
really it was more about, all right, here's how lightweight our technology is, where you can deploy it anywhere and get your content online real fast. And
yeah,
that was the story, that has been the story at Insta360 for a long time. It's kind of the story now with Bird Dog with their Mackie Live camera. They're
yeah.
like, is battery operated, it's set up and go. You can go direct to social media. Like there's a lot to talk about there. But
Well, I'll date myself. So the first NAB that I ever went to, the thing for that one was 3D.
oh
So
wow.
like you you go in, and I think Avid was touting their first media composer that could do edit 3D.
Right.
And so we sat in a booth, and they gave us 3D glasses and all that. And I'm like,
Oh,
oh my
that's
god.
hilarious. I did not realize. Not even like 3D rendering, but like the 3D
Oh
TV
no.
world.
Yes. So that's how long I've been doing this, and it's yeah, puts it back a while.
That's awesome. Wowzers. Yep, you've been at it for a while then, I guess. That's
Yeah.
bravo, longer than me. I walked into NAB wide-eyed in 2019 was my in April was my first NAB. And I know guys that have been going for 30 years, but
Yeah.
I walked in, I was like, "Whoa, this is a world." Like I was in the tech world before, but I not like this. And so I had
When
been.
and New York is such a smaller show too.
Yes. Yeah, that was an interesting experience because I had never met Dan. Like I talked to him online, but I'd never been with him. And so I met Eamon in 2019. I think Dan got sick or something. I forget what happened, but anyways, I worked with Eamon and one of the engineers at 2019 in April, and then the next October, no, whatever that one is, New York is. Then I was with Eamon and Dan and me at the booth, and so I was
Yeah.
only like 3 months into being a bird dog person, and I told him like, look, I'll handle all the, like the nerdy connections, technical setup, network, all that stuff. You guys do the forward facing, like be available to the customers. Let me handle the. If you need me to go get you a water, just ask. Like, because I'm not as versed as you guys are. You need to be available, and it worked out really well. We had like an Airbnb in Jersey. We took the ferry across. That was quite the
Oh,
show,
wow.
and that's where I ran into you.
Yep.
When you came by the booth, and then you were only a stone's throw away. Telestream was
Yeah.
just like over the aisle, basically. So
Yep.
yeah, that was fun. The good old
Yeah.
days.
It was a blast.
Awesome. Well, let's. I see Randy has checked in, but he has also checked out because he can't hang out. So what's going on, Randy? Good to see you, man. The Canadian election is now over, and good luck in the next 4 years. I don't know how you feel about it, but onward and upward, I hope. So good
Oh yeah, you're
times.
close to home with that, right?
Yeah, that's been something with all elections. I get to just watch on the sidelines because I'm not an American. I'm a legal resident in the States with a green card, and then I'm Canadian by birth. But I can't vote in those elections either because I'm not a resident. So
Oh
I just
man.
kind of sit on the fence and watch as it unfolds, and there's really nothing you can do to contribute to that other than have conversations. And so hopefully the Canadian economy is a little bit different than the American, where it's very different. But in this regard, it's supposed to be after the election's over, we're all Canadians, though we all come back and kind of work now towards, instead of the polarization that is, okay, well, the other party's in office, so now we got to work against them for the next 4 years. It's supposed to be. So we'll see what happens. But that was a big election, and now it's on to the next thing. So
It's
hopefully,
funny.
yeah, hopefully we can walk through that. Um, the where is? Oh yeah, Randy. He wrote, "I'm glad that our elections are so quick." Or yeah, and no bombarded, not bombarded by it for months and months. It's true. It's
Yeah.
it's like call an election. It happens in a couple of months, and then it's over. Instead of it starting on a whole year cycle,
Yeah.
from the president's third term onto the or third year onto the fourth. So crazy. All right. It is 12, 15 minutes into it here. And so we got a lot to cover. And I want to like
Yeah.
maximize whatever time that you can spend. Do you have a hard stop at all today?
I don't. Well, yeah, yes, I
Perfect.
do.
All
I
day.
think
Oh, all right.
I do have a hard stop, but I think we have plenty of time for the show.
Okay, cool. I definitely want to spend some time walking through Resi because you've been a huge advocate for it, and you've been my
Yeah.
my personal contact even before I think you were my rep.
Yep.
Just to kind of understand how this all works. First and foremost, though, I think like we need to do the big picture as to like where is Resi in this conversation of streaming
Yeah.
live? Where does it fit in? I'm gonna let you take the stage here, just kind of do your thing, and then I've got a lot of questions and follow up, and then we should probably walk through some practical, like here are some features. So,
Cool.
what is Resi, and where does it kind of fit into the grand scheme of things?
Yeah. So RESI is a live streaming service provider. So similar to what you might get with Vimeo Live, Restream, Subsplash streaming, Boxcast streaming. We're competitors to a lot of those platforms. So a streaming service where we take your feed, we deliver it out. We can simulcast out to different platforms. Um, just like John mentioned initially, is the big focus at NAB this year was quick deliverable, quick deliverable, quick deliverable, and that's kind of been the industry mantra for a while now. Where Resi kind of takes a different approach to live streaming. So a lot of times, live streaming is meant to be, real time, instant, all of that. However, given that broadcasts can be extremely important and broadcast quality can be extremely important, and I think COVID kind of destroyed that to some degree, is that extremely high quality in a broadcast, because you saw all of the news agencies pivoting to anchors doing a home studio, and kids running in the background, and just the quality kind of dropped in that time. RESI really maintains a focus that a broadcast should be extremely high quality and it should be reliable. So no dropouts during your stream, no macro blocky video, things like that that's happening in your stream. And so when we started as a company, it was way before COVID, but we started with a point-to-point transmission protocol. So we call it RSP, Resilient Stream Protocol, where we take your feed in, we're caching your feed, and then we deliver it, in that case, in the multi-site point-to-point, we're delivering it to a decoder, which acts as a high-end DVR system, and it will cache a video there as well. So it's kind of like you have a redundant cache before it's played out. So, some of our larger clients would use that to get a high quality, reliable feed on the timing that they preferred to play back when they needed it. All of our customers fell in love with the product and really sold it for us. And then they start begging, hey, you're already handling our video. Can you do the streaming for us as well? And so our team pivoted to doing online streaming, web deliverable, where we take your video feed up to our cloud, we transcode it out to different resolutions, and then, like I mentioned, simulcast it out to Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, Twitch. We really can do anything now, but in an extremely reliable fashion. So the biggest thing to keep in mind is RESI is not an instantaneous deliverable. So even though it's live, it's kind of like a tape delay of sorts. If you remember the broadcast days where there's a tape delay for different purposes, RESI does a delay where we're caching the video to a local encoder, we're sending it up to the cloud, and in our cloud we build a 90-second pre-buffer of video. That 90-second pre-buffer of video makes sure every frame of video is getting accurately up to the cloud, and then we deliver out to the final destination. So I've had a few churches, they called it out, gave me the example of when they switched to using RESI for their live streaming, it was almost like they were watching video right off their record deck for their live stream. And that's kind of an unheard of quality when you're talking about live stream.
Yeah, I mean, and part of that whole conversation is about being sure that nothing drops and nothing downgrades, and it's a consistent product, which is kind of where I step into this conversation, because the group that I'm with, the church that I'm with, everything is about being able to be up and running. Like we have redundancies on tons of stuff, and so having a resilient protocol, one that RESI offers, is really in our wheelhouse as to, okay. And what was hilarious is the guy that I work with, the guy that hired me, he said when I was looking at options, I called RESI and they said, honestly, for what you're doing, like you're kind of a small church, whatever, like the small encoder is just going to be fine for you guys to get started. And he's like, yeah, okay, give me the server. And they were like, well, no, we meant like just the less expensive one for what you're doing. And he's like, yeah, no, the server one is good. So he because he was like, I want the absolute best, the ability to deliver on our stream every week and basically be hands-on when it comes to the final step. And this is a theory that I use anyways in much of my deployment of things, is like, I need it to work. That's actually something I said to people at NAB at stands all the time. And I said, like, look, if I come to you and I get your product, I don't need any half-baked features. I need the things that I need. I need them to just work. I need to know how they work, and I need to be able to be 100% sure. No, we went with RESI, and so it's gonna work. And the response on that was great, because it allowed, it allowed people to tell us about their strengths and less about like this is up and coming, but more about this is the wheelhouse that we find ourselves in. And
Right.
so, yeah, with RESI for us, we do have the high end server for the encoder, which has been extremely reliable. And we our soundstage right now is on basically on battery backup. It's on live power and solar. So there would literally need to
Oh
be a
wow.
tornado that would rip solar panels off of our roof and kill the grid. And then we'd be done batteries in 2 hours, which is longer than any live stream we've ever
Yeah.
done. So like
Yeah.
we have backups upon backups upon. Well, if though we're going out of like OBS to YouTube, that the bottleneck is going to be, is this open source software going to work? And that wasn't going to be good enough for us. And so we wanted that resilient piece, which is RESI has kind of stepped in and handled that for us.
Yeah.
So there is the kind of like a tape delay if people are familiar with that. It's
Yep.
what is it normally? Is it 90 seconds or 120 seconds or how long is it usually?
Yeah, it's 90 seconds is our minimum delay. So
Okay.
that's a bare minimum, and that's kind of hard baked into our initial protocols and design system. Um, Now, if you're in a really unstable network environment, you can actually bump that up to a max of 10 minutes
Oh wow.
natively. And there's other ways to go around it. But here, I'll give an example of this. So we had a pastor in our community that passed away a few years ago, and so very prominent in the community. And the only place that would really hold a memorial service for him was a high school auditorium. So my church came in and we're like, hey, we want to support you through this time. We use Resi. I have equipment for my church as well. And so I just brought my whole little fly pack to that memorial service, and I contacted the school ahead of time. I'm like, what kind of network connection can we get?
Right.
And they said you can have access to our guest network, wireless guest network.
Yikes.
I'm like, sweet. So I'm doing a live stream on a wireless guest network at a high school. I'm like, no thanks.
Yeah, no, that's not cool. I mean, it's
But
I wouldn't like it, but
yeah, but that was literally the only thing. And the high school was kind of in a rural community, so cell signal wasn't that great
right.
either. I'm like, okay, well, we're gonna do this. And so I went in, I set my delay then to a 5 minute delay. It's a memorial service, so it's not like we're getting interaction or anything. We just want to get a good
Right.
feed out. And so I set it up on a 5 minute delay. I think I did a 4 or 5 megabit stream on guest Wi-Fi internet
Mhm.
going, you know, going out, and it was a perfect stream for them. I mean, it was high quality 1080 stream
Now,
at 4 megabit.
do you have the ability to see when you're hitting snags? Like I haven't dug too deep in terms of the analytics of Resi, but while you're underway, like so in your instance, you may not have great upload speed or you may not have consistent upload speeds.
Yeah.
And so how do you monitor that with Resi to see like, okay, we're eating into our window or
Yeah.
we're catching up or we're good. And also I guess my follow-up question to this is something that I think I've asked you before and likely forgotten the answer is you set that 5 minute delay, right? And you're
Mhm.
running in real time at the memorial service and you're running
Right.
real time online. So if you start eating that delay, does that just shorten down? Like there's no way to make it up basically, right? Like there's because
Well,
you're
you can make up. So um, as soon as you get a good burst, because a lot of ISPs will turn on bursting. So
right.
when there is a good connection, you have better upload speeds and all that. So because we're caching all the video to the local drive, once you have a burst, you can make up that cache. So even if you have a 5 minute cache that shrinks down to like 2 minutes,
Right.
if you get a good upload burst, you can build that up as soon as
Gotcha.
you get a good
Yeah, I
good
guess that makes
connection.
sense because you would basically be paused in theory, you'd be paused live. So the memorial
Correct.
service, the data that you're sending from the memorial up to RESI is paused. But then you're eating away at it. But then as soon as that comes live again, like internet gets restored or you get a burst, then it puts all those packets in line and restores that 5 minutes that you would have.
Yep,
okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. That's mapped out much better in my mind now than it was before. Because I was like, if you're live and you go out on site, then wouldn't you be eating closer towards the thing that's happening live? But actually, the encoder's probably caching all of that still. And then as soon as you make that connection, then it packs those packets on, and then you have that 5 minute delay.
Yeah. Yeah. So for example, worst case scenario, we had one client that they were doing construction outside their building. They were doing a live stream. ISP line got cut. And so I think it took them about 15 minutes to get a good network connection back in. So they were running the normal 90-second delay, but RESI worked perfectly in this solution where it did go into a buffering state online, which, as soon as that 90-second buffer runs out, it's going to keep that connection alive on all platforms.
Expecting it to come back.
Right. Where a lot of platforms, as soon as you get a network interruption, your stream is dead and gone.
Yes.
RESI, because it's coming from our servers, we're going to keep that connection alive. And then as soon as they were able to reestablish a connection, it picked up right where it left off. So if anybody did stay on, they didn't miss anything.
Right.
So that 15-minute gap of time where they didn't have any network connection whatsoever, that wasn't lost. The stream picked up right where it left off. And then their archived video from RESI was a full seamless stream because that whole cache and how we build that cache up in the cloud, it was seamless without any interruption.
Gotcha. So the live stream had a buffer, but the actual final video that's stored inside RESI and could then be pushed, like replaced basically for the service that got interrupted, could be the full video without any interruptions at all.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's interesting. Something while you were talking, and I'm already kind of like veering from the main line here real quick, but just so people know, YouTube and Facebook are notorious for changing your bit rates. And so RESI doesn't necessarily fix that problem. It's still going, like, you're still going to send up a high quality stream. It's going to look amazing inside the RESI player. It's going to look amazing on your RTMP output. So on X or over on Rumble or over anywhere you're sending a straight RTMP stream, it's going to look really good. When you send it to YouTube and to Facebook, they do their own thing to it. And we navigated this a little bit with RESI support, who were very good at this, by the way. Thumbs up to tech companies that have good support teams.
Yeah.
But we navigated this a little bit with RESI support, and they recommended a bunch of things. And we tried a bunch of things, and there was nothing that we could do from a RESI side or an encoder side that would get YouTube to not do the violations that they do to video to get it on their site. And more than likely, the reasoning being they're doing so much video processing all the time that they're not going to be able to provide the same bit rate then as a platform like X. And we do stream to Rumble, and that stream always is like, the stream is nice and crispy and it looks correct. If you watch the video inside the web player that's happening live on RESI, that video looks pristine. There's no difference between that and X's or that and any RTMP stream that takes it natively. But it doesn't necessarily answer the question is like, how do we get YouTube to finally show high quality video? Because they're going to take it and compress it. They're also going to jack with your audio. And so this kind of leads me, actually, I'm going to use this as a segue. This leads me into a conversation about hosting using RESI. So I'll pivot a little bit here. Safe Harbor is wrestling with, and quite frankly, I'm wrestling with, this question about what do we do with our social, like right now we're just primarily on social media. Join us wherever you want to be. So Facebook, YouTube, X, Rumble, we're all over the place. And what I'd like to do is kind of centralize it a little bit, because I don't necessarily want to be hosting a church platform on YouTube, although it's fine. It's what a lot of churches do. But what I want to do is use our social medias as a way to reach out to people who are connecting with us, but then invite them into, hey, you can unofficially join our congregation. You're going to get a much better picture if you join us over on, Vimeo is another one we stream to, by the way, for archival purposes only. But hey, join us over here. You're going to get a much better picture. It'll be an RTMP, probably an embedded video from RESI. And we could build our church community then within our own kind of controlled space instead of over on social media where we are right now. And that seems like a logical place to go. But how can RESI answer some questions for me? The first is, embedded video. The interactions that we get with chat and social media and that sort of thing. Yeah. We use a program called Slido, which is an online Q&A, among other things. It's our Q&A module, which basically people can log into Slido. Scan a QR code that we have on an invitation screen. They join our Q&A, and then they can ask any questions. They can put their name. They can be anonymous. They can do whatever they like. Ask any questions about the lesson, any questions about the church, any questions about any of us ministers, like any questions about giving, anything. It's like a free-for-all. And then our minister answers those live at the end of service. And so it kind of it like reaches out and brings people into the conversation. Hey, if you have a question, we want you to interact with us, and we will interact with you if we're live at the soundstage. We'll spend time, 10, 15, 20 minutes, just answering questions. And he goes into theological stuff, and he goes into, production-based stuff. We haven't gotten yet as to people asking, like, how are you guys doing this? But, like, if that ever came up, one of our technical ministers, I'm one of them, would probably show up behind a microphone and explain how that goes. Like, so we do bring, there's like a very much so emphasis on the live element of who we are, that what we are doing is happening now. What we're teaching is happening now. All of course, is recorded and available for later use. But like, if you join us on Sundays, and there's lots of people that just aren't going into a brick and mortar or are just kind of figuring it out. We don't think of ourselves as necessarily like a replacement for brick and mortar, because there's something very valuable as being a part of a community and being active in that. Yeah. But how do we emphasize the live element, but also kind of bring people into, hey, if you really want the ultimate experience when it comes to watching our live stuff, come and join us over on this platform. So how do we kind of cast the net, to use a biblical phrase, cast the net to kind of bring people into, and what sort of tools are available now with RESI, some of them that were at NAB, and I would love for you to kind of go into that, where we can already utilize the power that we basically already have with RESI to make the experience the absolute best that we can.
Cool. And I love that, because I have lots of conversations with my pastor about this as well. Mm-hmm. And the way he views it, and the vision that he's cast for me is, we're going to use every available outlet that we can to, like you mentioned, cast the net out. Mm-hmm. But ultimately we want to draw them or funnel them back to our church congregation, where we can pastor them, interact with them a little bit more. Right. So having a good online host is key. You mentioned that. We use Church Online platform for that interaction. So, we communicate out, like we're gonna stream to Facebook, YouTube, and typically I have chat turned off there on those platforms, just because we're not always able to monitor those. Yeah, we're a smaller congregation as well, so it's like, we try and funnel people back to one spot. Right. And then we use Church Online platform, where we can then interact. And if somebody has a prayer request or ministry need, you can bring them into a private chat. Okay. Which is super helpful, because, YouTube, we always say it's a super distracting platform, right? They're trying to get you to click on that Cybertruck video. They're going to try and get you to watch cat videos once the stream is done, things like that. But when you do Church Online platform, you have the public chat, but then if somebody's posting in there like they're crying out for help, or they need something, you can pull them into a private chat and interact with them one-on-one.
Right.
So then, that doesn't have to, their business doesn't have to be broadcast out publicly and all that. So that's a tool that we use. And honestly, for RESI, a lot of our clients use a church online platform as well.
Okay.
So super, super great. The best thing about it is it's free.
Yeah. See, now that I didn't know. I was like, all right, we should.
Yeah.
This isn't your company, so like we'll talk about pricing or whatever. But that's fascinating, because that basically is an answer to, and this is why this show is still relevant because I find out things for me about how to do things, and what people are doing, and you don't know unless you ask, right? And so anyway, sorry, but that's very fascinating that it's actually provided as a free service.
Yeah, so if you're familiar with them, Life.Church, they put out the YouVersion Bible app. They built the church online platform.
So YouVersion is also another thing that your church, if you're a part of church ministry, you can apply to be a recognized church and then be discoverable on that platform. And Safe Harbor is on there as well, which I just did. Yeah. I'm still trying to figure it out. Like, is it a social media platform? You can put up one post at a time. Yeah. And then your previous post expires. And so I was like, okay, like maybe this week's scripture or something like that, right? But I'm still figuring it out. But anyways, continue.
Yeah. No, so that's, they've definitely grown a lot. I've actually been on Church Online platform, and this is hilarious. But when they first rolled it out, it was probably like 20, holy cow, 2010?
Oh, wow, yeah. That's 15 years ago, my friend.
I know. It's been around a long time. And so the church that I was on staff at, I signed up for it as soon as I saw that they released it. And so I was on it for a long time, first iteration stuff. Then, COVID, everybody pivoted and they needed to find something. It actually crashed their servers.
Oh, my goodness.
Because they only had a few churches using it pre-COVID, and then really revamped it and did a lot of cool things where you can push moments out. So like if there's a response, like call to response at the end of service, you can have some of that stuff pre-built in, and so you just push a moment out and have that response.
Yeah.
So it's a great way. So like your Slido link, there's a couple of things. So number one, we can talk about QR code, like you mentioned QR code, but in Church Online platform too, you can just have that pushed out as a link in a comment in that platform.
And that is something we do, but manually right now. Like I go to our platforms and push it, but it would be great to have something like what StreamYard does, is where you're connected to all of your platforms, and you can, as long as the API is connected on the back end, you can push it back to all those platforms. Yeah.
Can we answer a question in the chat real quick? Because Chad.
Yes, let me throw that up there for you. Has RESI ever done any streaming to a broadcast network? Wondering how the latency has worked when FAC sing out of their master control.
Yeah, so forward error correcting out. So one thing at RESI we like to talk about is instead of forward error correcting, we're backward error correcting. So where we're not able to, or we're not basing our stream on correcting like what we think is going to go wrong.
Right.
Having that redundant cache where we're caching everything and then building that buffer up in the cloud. If in that buffer we see packet loss or packet dropping, we're going back and re-grabbing that cache from the hard drive, and then making sure that that file is perfect up in the cloud. So we're kind of doing a checksum in that buffer that we're building in the cloud.
Yeah. Oh, that's really cool. Let me just jump down here real quick. Follow up on the chat. Angus,
I was wrong in what I was thinking. So not forward error correcting, because that'd be an E, right?
Oh, yes. So fax is what I'm being corrected on by both Angus and Chad.
Yeah.
Facilities checks, pronounced like facts. Basically, proving you have sound and audio. It's like a line check.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
there's an echo. Also, welcome to the Teaching Things to John live stream. Just literally what it is. Most times I'm like, oh, I hope you guys found out something, because I found out a bunch of stuff, and I like go back to my, I appear like a wizard when I go back to work, and my guys are like, hey, we're like, why are we doing it this way? I'm like, well, because of this and this and this, and I tested this, and the guys in my chat said this and this. So Vimeo loves to randomly introduce new features that break things. They're expensive, they're frustrating, but still just good enough to keep paying the bills, says Angus. Fair enough. Vimeo has its places that it shines. We used to use it fairly religiously, but now it's purely a backup for us in case everything goes wrong. Then there's a great copy, an RTMP stream that's over on Vimeo. But quite frankly, if it gets to RESI, that's just as good. So I'm not really too sure why we're still maintaining it. And Angus loves to teach me things. So there you go. Well, today it's Jeremy. He's teaching me things. So we'll go from there.
Well, all Angus, right, Angus has a lot of wealth of information.
Oh, my goodness. So. Yeah. He's been coming to this show for years, and to my show for years. And yes, I've taken a lot. I've taken almost guaranteed more away from him than he's taken away from me. So there you go. I'm grateful that he joins me most weeks. All right. So let's talk about this building like your online church idea or online community through RESI, and what features are available. Now there are different like pricing tiers, right? Yeah. And so there's like a basic light version, and then there's kind of a standard. I don't know what the pricing names are. And then there's one higher than that. Am I right?
Yeah, so we have like our starter plan, which entry level, just getting you into it. And actually, so there's 4. We do have a social only plan. So if you're just going to Facebook and YouTube, which we have a lot of organizations just doing that, that literally just takes your feed up and then simulcasts out to Facebook and YouTube. The cool part about that is, most platforms are still using some sort of RTMPS as that API call into Facebook and YouTube. With RESI, I know for YouTube specifically, we have a dash API into YouTube. So, you talked about it earlier, where YouTube is going to transcode your video, and their transcoders are not always the best.
No.
So to some degree, we do get slightly better quality out of our YouTube feed, going directly to.
No, you guys, because you have a social media like integration with it, right? Because I know I don't have to send an RTMP feed, although I can, but there's a direct YouTube like put in your channel type of setup, and then it's a one-click go, type of situation.
Yeah. Basically, you log into YouTube, allow RESI to post on your behalf like a normal API would do.
Right.
But then that API call into or push out to YouTube is using a dash stream, so an adaptive bitrate stream. And when you're going from cloud to cloud, an adaptive bitrate, it shouldn't ever drop below a certain threshold.
No.
But
it should
but it still gives you that back.
Nice. Okay.
Yep.
All right. But the big piece is probably that standard pricing, right? Like beyond the starter, but okay. So let's stick there, and then we can add the additional premium stuff on the other tiers after that. But let's walk through kind of how RESI, like 9 times out of 10, this is the way that we function.
Yeah. So feature set wise, embedded video player, standalone video player. With that standard plan, we also provide Dash and HLS stream URLs. So if you're building like a Roku channel, Apple TV channel, or iOS or Android apps, a lot of times those will use a HLS stream URL.
Yeah.
So with that standard plan, we call it Pro Web plan. You not only get that embedded player, but then you also get those stream URLs, which are super helpful for any OTT apps and things like that you're building.
Are
Um,
those resilient? Like, I'm sorry, not resilient. Are those redundant so that it's the same link for every time? Like, we go live every Sunday, so it basically would be a splash screen
yeah,
until we're live, and then it's live video out of that.
yeah. So the way Resi handles it is, primarily you're sending or broadcasting to a Resi channel.
Yeah,
The Resi channel is going to be a perpetual embed code or a perpetual stream URL. Each individual stream also has a unique identifier on it. So if you want it as a standalone, it will have a unique dedicated one. So what I always like to tell customers is if you have an event, let's just say it's a wedding or a memorial service or something like that, that you want more private, you don't want going to your public page,
right.
you can create a second channel that you're just not broadcasting, or you don't have that embedded somewhere. Or you can just take that URL, send it out to the family. They can redistribute it to whoever they want. So like a wedding is a
Gotcha.
great example. You can send it to them ahead of time.
Yep.
Now, if you do a wedding every weekend, somebody could use that same link and see next weekend's wedding
Sure.
if you're doing it at the channel level. But if you need it 100% individual, then once that event starts, it has a very unique identifier on it, and so you can send that out if you want it completely private.
Gotcha. Like, if you were storing these online, for example, like in Resi in the library, say you were doing weddings, is it
Mm-hmm.
this is just a feature request, I guess? Is it possible that when you send that link to somebody, that's the link that shows the video in the library after the event is over?
So no, in that case, it's going to be because we're essentially creating a new media asset for
Okay,
archive.
got it.
So so once it's archived over on Resi on Demand, that is a unique media asset ID as well.
Got it. Got it. Okay, cool. All right.
Yep.
So we can embed in my website or in whatever service that it is what we're using. Let's talk about
Yep.
interaction. Let's talk about what options
Yep.
there are for chat. So we could talk a little bit more about Church Online. And
Yep.
then what about engaging with people? So Slido, giving, all of that. What's kind
Yeah.
of on the horizon for Resi there?
Yeah. So you already mentioned QR code. Like you guys use QR codes in a lot of your communication to your
Yes.
community. Um, you know, typically when we look at stats, pretty much half of all viewership they're watching on their cell phone, right?
Yes.
So when you get a QR code, what are you going to do? Get out your second phone and scan that QR code?
Now
Or,
the guys watching this show all have two phones, but
yeah, right.
Betty from the Lutheran Church, she does not have two cell phones.
Yeah. Or the other option, like, and I joked with somebody about this recently. I'm like, so if you are tech savvy enough, you can just screen capture that QR code,
Right.
go into your photos, and then you can navigate to the link that you're linking to.
But
Um,
there's nothing quite like in the moment
right.
being
Exactly.
able to capture that data in the moment and interact. So, yeah.
Right. So Resi actually designed the technology, and then we patented it, where we call a QR click. So we made it so if a QR code comes into the video frame, our player will recognize that. And then we decode that QR code right within the Resi player and turn that into a clickable link right there in the live video.
Gotcha.
So what that means is, remove that barrier of entry. No longer do I have to scan that QR code
Yep.
or take a capture of it. I can click right on that QR code, whether it's on my phone or if I'm watching a web browser. I click on that. It's going to, and we designed it so you can have a few different interactions. You can open a new tab
Yep.
in a web browser, or best case is we open a window right over your live stream, and so you can interact right there with it.
Gotcha.
The huge benefit that we see, again, you remove that barrier of entry, but number one, right in the moment, like you said, first time visitors, when you put up that QR code for, hey, who's joining us for the first time the
Right.
Sunday, immediately a form pops up right there in your stream where they can fill out that information. So they don't have to try and scan something. They don't have to click on anything necessarily. You can make it so that form pops up. So the only thing that they have to do is type in their name, email, whatever you're asking of them for that first time visitor form fill.
Right.
Um, and it makes it super interactive, real time, in the moment, and it keeps that engagement there.
Yeah, it's instead of I'll fill that out after service, which then the phone goes back in the pocket and they start making lunch. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep. That's
Yep.
a pretty neat way to do that. Do you want you want me to show how this is done? You want to?
Yeah, let's walk through it, and if you can pull up Studio,
Yep.
Resi Studio, and
All right. So I'm going to use, well, let's use the QR code for Slido in this instance. I have it copied here, but walk us through that.
all right. So if you go into Resi Studio, go to the Settings tab, and then over on the left side, you should see QR click overlays.
Okay.
Now, click the Create QR code overlay. And now you have a few forms to fill out. The first name is more organizational name, so whatever you want to name that, so you can kind of keep track of it in Resi Studio.
Gotcha.
That's more just organizational purposes.
So
The URL, yep. So go to your you already had it.
Yep.
And now the custom QR click label, when our player decodes that QR code, we put a pill, like an animated pill above that QR code.
Okay.
And so this is the label that's going to go into that QR code.
So something like that, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And then the next step down there, the type of interaction you want. So again, I mentioned external link will open a new tab in their web browser. If you do the in-player overlay, so click on that one, now you have two more options. So you have the click to open. So that still takes an interaction to click on that, and it's going to open right there on the page, or the auto open feature. Auto open, can be a little aggressive because it's going to open up a thing in that stream.
Right.
The nice part about that is it only opens that window while that QR code is present. So you're typically doing that in your video production switcher?
Yep.
Overlaying that? Is that right?
Well, the QR actually shows up on slides out of like Pro Presenter. So we have an alpha channel that comes across if we push a QR code, or it's an announcement slide, you know what I mean? So it shows up there too.
Yeah. So you're kind of controlling that with Pro Presenter, how long that graphic is up there.
Right.
So as long as that QR code is present in your video stream, it's going to keep that popped up or clickable as an option. As soon as that goes away, that interaction's gone. So go ahead and click the preview overlay button. And now that is the interaction that would happen, is the QR code pops up on your stream, has a little animated pill button on that, and you can
click anywhere on that.
Yep. All right, so Slido.
Yeah, that's cool. So it's closed, but yes, this is what the mobile app looks like.
Yeah.
Is basically this little window. And then I should open it. But anyways, let's jump back here though and just say auto open.
Yep.
If I preview that. Okay, so yeah, I mean, something that we want, obviously we want people to send us feedback. This is for guys, if people have questions about lesson or who we are, or ministers or whatever, people can ask any questions they want during service. And so we use Slido for that, just the free version of it. Yeah. But we have a lot of people that don't even join us or don't know how to scan a QR code. So essentially this is the answer of click a button, making a big easy button, or forcing somebody to go into it by auto opening it over the video itself, which is impressive.
Yeah. So obviously The big use cases right now are, first time visitor, Q&A stuff like what you're showing here, or online giving. So online giving is a big one because it's like, how can you, some organizations are like, "Hey, we need to convince leadership that what we're doing is valuable
Right.
and to keep investing in our online stream and all that." So when you can have trackable data, and that gets into a whole different discussion of like what kind of QR codes or what kind of URLs do I link, but
Right.
having trackable QR codes sometimes are helpful in this, because then you get analytics around, okay, how many people interacted with this QR code, how many people clicked on this link or engaged that way.
Gotcha. What about how does this work then on YouTube and on like other platforms with QRs popping up like that?
Yeah, so unfortunately, with YouTube, Facebook, they're just going to get that stream. So their
Okay.
players are not designed the same way.
Yep.
And this is a RESI only technology where it's embedded specifically in our player.
Got it.
So Church Online platform is a great call out for that, because that's an embedded RESI player
Mm-hmm.
where that embedded player, it's going to take the QR code, it's going to interact just like you showed there in the player on that.
Awesome. Yeah, that is basically I believe for me, like where we're eventually stepping next is having a specific place and just saying like, look, this will be the best quality place to watch the stream, and whether it's on our site or on
Yeah,
Church Online or something like however it works out, but
yeah,
funneling people eventually off of YouTube and Facebook and and having them naturally come. Now, the thought of having an actual Apple TV app or something like that had not crossed my mind,
yeah.
but I'm sure there are platforms that would help you develop that to
Hmm.
make that happen. But
Yeah.
that would be great, because not necessarily that I use Apple TV for anything, but because it's just another platform that I already.
Have to manage
Yeah,
and
exactly. I already have like six, and
right.
so Apple TV is another one. But an Android app that can be installed on a TV, or
Yeah.
something like that. Just accessibility, is and I want it selfishly. I want it to appear like we're blazing a trail, like if from where our people come from. We'll put it that way. From where our congregants come from, nobody's really doing what we do. And so
Yeah.
I want to continue to innovate, and I want to continue to move the needle in terms of accessibility. And
Yep.
yeah, that would be anyway. So this is all a part of that conversation of driving it all forward.
Yeah. So let me share a few other use cases of QR click that,
Sure.
because not everybody I know in your community is necessarily doing this for church,
Right.
although you can translate it. But the big thing that I kind of had an awakening on in this was, I was talking to a school that does live streaming of their sports. So when you think of sports streaming, you can get kind of pricey on that, but you have a huge following, especially if your team is good and you're going to like state tournaments and all that.
Right.
Typically, there's a sports booster involved in that, and I'm like, this is an amazing way for your sports booster to go to the community and sell advertising space.
Mm.
So now I'm going to like my local car dealership or whatever local business. I'm getting like a promo graphic that I can link to with that QR code,
Yep.
and I'm basically selling advertising space. So as long as I have that QR code up in my sports stream, or like there's a timeout or halftime break, I'm putting up a QR code that's now automatically popping up with information about this promo or whatever is going on in the community.
Right.
So huge workflow for that, where like you can Resi's not necessarily monetizing your stream, but this is a way for you to take that stream, go to the
Yep.
next level with what kind of interaction you're trying to drive with that.
So, am I understanding correctly though? Like, this will be able to recognize QR codes that are on screens, or do I have to build them myself?
Okay, so um, in the starter plan, the starter Resi plan, if a QR code pops up, you can make that just the standard, like I have to click on that, it's going to open up in a new window. You have that feature
Okay.
available. The pro level plan brings it to that next where you have the QR click overlays.
Yeah.
So so when you take any URL, register it just like you did in Studio,
Yep.
then you can define the interaction that's going to happen once Resi sees that URL QR code
I see.
in.
So will it it'll put the pill where the QR code is, it'll recognize where it is, and then, okay, all right. That's far more innovative than just generating a QR code with a pill on top.
Right. Yeah. So the QR code that we put up there is just a generic QR code. It's whatever, like you could go to any QR code builder.
Yeah.
And when you put in a URL, it should generate the exact same.
Yeah.
So we're not doing anything unique there. We're just registering when we see this URL, this is the interaction that we want to happen when you put it in Studio like you just did.
Got it. Yep. Okay, cool. Yeah, that makes it a fair bit more diverse in terms of like usability. I'm curious. Yeah. There's a lot of like possibilities here now filtering through my brain. Because like if you were to do your own website, for example, and host your own stream on your website and try and drive traffic towards it, how to leverage the QR code to like take an attendance, for example, how many people were watching. Because one of the things that, well, maybe we should talk about Resi Analytics for a second, but one of the things that YouTube does well is at least it shows you views and can give you duration and give you a few other stats. And so if you shift over to a platform where you're hosting it essentially through Resi, you're hosting it on your own site, what sort of feedback then does Resi offer us in replacement of YouTube Analytics, Facebook Meta Analytics? They're not great, but let's pivot a little bit there, because that will be one of the questions is, well, how do we know how many people watched?
Right. So Resi gives great analytics where if you go back into Studio and click on that, I don't know if you have, if you've been tracking analytics in your stream or not.
No, we do it on our social media platforms, but not inside analytics itself. So,
well, if you go there, we'll just kind of talk through what it looks like. So in here, number one, you can dial out how far back you want it to go. So let's just say you built a channel, you've embedded this in your website, you're using Church Online platform, you go here to the embedded player. Now I can go back and look at the past 30 days or 28 days and see a rolling average of how many views I had over that 28 days.
Okay.
Or I could go into a specific event. So if you click on that event list, now go back to none there.
Oh, this one. Oh, sorry.
And then go up to the event list under event analytics.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. So that would show you a specific stream and then give you just the analytics for that one specific service.
Yeah, that would be very useful.
So it's kind of like going into the live stream on YouTube Analytics and seeing that individual stream.
Yeah.
Now, as you scroll down on this page, you get like all the standards. So unique viewers, return viewers, which guys like us, if we're smart, we're clearing our cache, so it might look like we're always a unique viewer, rather than a return viewer because it uses cookies.
Again, most people don't know that. Like most people in this world that are watching these videos don't know that. Right.
So there's a lot of great analytics that you can drive in here.
Okay.
We have a lot of churches that will add a multiplier to their stream. They're like, we know that behind every stream, every unique viewer, there may be like 3 sets of eyeballs watching that.
Right.
So there's conversations around that, like, so the church will add a multiplier to their unique viewers of like, 2.3 or whatever their demographic is for families in their community.
Got it.
So, if it's a larger community and they, you have 6 kids on average instead of 2,
yeah,
then they might 8 times multiplier or something like that, which,
that is the problem that we have, but ours is a global issue because like, we're not community based necessarily in terms of, we're not focused on the Nashville area, for example.
Right.
We're just like we got people in Africa, and we got people in Germany, and we got people all over the place. And so it's like, we don't really even know what that demographic is. And it almost, our current state of mind is we kind of given up on knowing how many, which is one of the driving factors behind YouTube. Is like, you want to know how many people are watching so you can and who, so you can kind of tailor your content to those types of demographics. But in our instance, we're like, honestly, we don't even know how to average it out, and so we kind of say like 1.5 per view, just because mostly it's husbands and wives, and then maybe kids, but that's at least a fairly conservative thought of, okay, this is probably how many people tuned in based on views from last week. But that is a question that I'm very interested in knowing. What are people doing for that, and how does that factor into your analytics on RESI?
Right. So obviously this is going to be a large picture view of that. We can't tell you exactly what to do, but when you click on the viewer breakdown, the next one, you can actually change that to device type.
Okay.
And so I was talking to a church, and they're like, yeah, we do a 2.3 multiplier on everything. And I'm like, you had 800 views on mobile. Are you telling me that you have 2.3 people huddled around a mobile phone?
And
they're like, huh, I never thought about that. I said, you only have 1 set of eyeballs on that mobile phone. Now, you had 200 people watching on a set-top box, and that's listed out, set-top box or web browser or something like that.
A TV is more of a shared experience than a phone is.
Right. So I'm like, okay, if your demographic is, let's just say 2.3, add a 3 multiplier if it says a set-top box or TV, because you're probably getting 3 viewers on that.
Yeah.
Where mobile phone, you're only getting 1.
That's a really good way to think of that.
Different approach to how you can do a multiplier on that when you break that down.
Yeah.
And this church was like, oh my gosh, we've been doing analytics so wrong, because now that we have information like this of like what type of device are they watching on.
Yep.
They're like, we can play that out a little bit better and get more accurate information on what those analytics look like.
Right. Hey, that's really fascinating. Well, I would love to see country, region, city, all that information, just because we could really use a heat map, which is something apparently that is also an option on this.
100%. Yeah. So the heat map will give you, it will do a drop pin based on where people are watching.
Yeah.
So obviously if you have a more central community, most of that heat map is going to be there.
Now that's based off of ISP like ping. So it's really strange because I'm out near Fairview, which is west of Nashville, but every time I log into Home Depot, it's like, oh, shop your local Atlanta store. And I'm like, Atlanta is a very far away from here. But that's because Starlink, that's where the base is for that. It's not in Nashville.
Got it. Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah. It might change if AT&T ever gets their act together and finishes installing the fiber cable that's hanging open at the corner of the road on my property. But
isn't that awful?
One thing at a time, folks. One thing at a time. First of all, I'm super pleased, knock on wood, that this is working so well the way that it is. And honestly, the Starlink has been getting better and better ever since I bought it. And so, like, hats off to them. Remember when I first started, I couldn't even get like 3 up.
It was bad.
Yeah, and now it's very stable. Now, mind you, I've corrected some wrongs here in this new build house. So, and it's all going to change again because I'm in the process of building my office, my side
Yeah.
garage, which is super exciting, but not for this show. And so, yeah, it's all going to change again. And last night I was walking on a treadmill thinking about like, all right, how many fiber lines do I want to run out to the garage? And thinking
Oh my
like,
God.
if it's $200 a line, basically with the transcoders and everything that I need for it. But then I was like, all right, I'm getting ahead of myself. I haven't even poured the concrete yet, so we need to
Uh,
we need to do that
well,
first, and baby steps, you know.
but if you're doing conduit, you have to figure that out before you
Exactly
push it.
right. Yes. And my neighbor has just built his, and he showed me how he did his, and I was like, oh, that's actually all very doable. Anyway, yeah, that project, I'll do a whole show on that project once it's underway, but I'm in the process of basically securing funding now and then getting quotes this afternoon. My hard stop is 3 o'clock. Getting quotes this
Yeah.
afternoon and Tuesday of next week, and I already have one quote. So it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm
Well,
quite
I
excited.
actually only have 15 more minutes. I
Okay,
just
well
took a look at my.
we better cover everything we want to talk about here.
Yeah.
So the analytics piece that RESI provides, obviously we need to integrate onto a website itself. What about the Facebook
Yeah.
stuff? Like this is just data from them.
Yeah, that's exactly the analytics that you'd get from Facebook on a regular basis. So
Okay.
that's, as useful as Facebook analytics are.
Yeah, which isn't great.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, Facebook average watch time. I mean, 3 minutes. That's because we do a lot of reels and shorts and whatever.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, but yeah, the viewership is probably that's interesting. Let's go to the week view. Oh, that's not, I guess, what I thought it was going to be. All right,
Yeah.
so I forget what was last
Yeah, so
Sunday.
where this comes into play is if you go back up to settings on the tab, the big tab,
Yeah,
and then go to web channels on the left. So like your our Safe Harbor Church streams,
yep.
wherever you have that embedded is where you're going to pull those analytics from.
Okay, I forget where these are going. Maybe nowhere. We may have just made a
Yeah.
group to.
Yeah. So like if you go up to the share icon on the right, like the mid right,
Yeah.
yeah, that one.
Oh yeah,
There you put your embed code. And so wherever you embed that video.
got it. Oh yeah, and this is your standalone player. Okay, cool.
Yep.
Let me, since you need to jet, let me look at my notes here real quick and just ask a couple of things that I was very interested in hearing more about. We may just have to, like in a month, do a wrap up of this because we didn't talk about
Yeah.
products. It's amazing. But
I know.
we did talk about the streams from YouTube, Facebook, and RTMP. One of the things about the scheduling. So we don't have a social media scheduler for all of our shorts. We have several Bible studies that go up midweek, at various intervals. Well, the way that they're being done right now, and maybe I just don't know, is they're basically being pushed live. So they get loaded into the library, they get scheduled as a live event, and then they get pushed to YouTube and Facebook as a live thing, but they're not. They're pre-recorded, studies
Right.
that my minister has a tendency of doing like a dozen and then loading them all. And then my executive minister just goes in and schedules everything.
Yeah.
What I would love though is for them to get uploaded as a video and not as a live event because
Yeah.
they're showing up in our live feed and they're not live. It's a big lie. So I would rather them show up in a playlist and as a new video, but for them not to be pushed live to my social media platforms. Is there a way to do that,
Yeah.
or is that something that maybe Resi might be looking at?
I think I understand what you're saying. And so if you go into the scheduling tool,
Mm-hmm.
it gives you three options of the source content
Yeah,
for that schedule. And so in those three options, you have so go back to the calendar event,
sure.
um, and then click anywhere into like add a new event. Yeah, so add an event, So if you go down to content source, you can do a
Oh, a
library
library
asset.
video. Okay,
So
continue.
it, so once you have a video uploaded to your media library, then you select that media asset and you schedule that to play out as if it, as a sim live.
Okay. And but what I'm hoping for is it not to show up live. I don't want it to, it's a pre recorded video. I really just want it uploaded, is what I want. Instead,
Oh, I get it.
because it shows up as
Um,
a live asset already under the live playlists on YouTube. And so if
okay.
you want to find the Bible classes, for example, I'd rather it be a video because I'm kind of trying to understand YouTube at a fundamental level, but it's like their thing is video. Their
Right.
secondary thing is live video. So they're a giant video like place where people just upload their videos and then
Yeah.
they're a part of their channel. Whereas the live element is a thing they do, but it's a secondary feature. And what I would rather is to drive the algorithms for our videos that are pre-recorded,
Sure.
but here's a playlist of 6,
Yeah.
Bible classes, and
Yep.
but for them not to show up as live, but to show up as videos instead.
So what you can do, depending on how exactly you're uploading that content, if you want it in Resi and in YouTube,
Yeah,
what you can do is you can schedule it to be like an unlisted live stream.
yeah,
And then in YouTube, and I've done this, is you make any edit whatsoever in that live video and it converts it over to just a video. So whether it's like a short trim
yeah.
or something like that, then it pushes it over to your video library.
I see.
So it's a
Yeah,
way for you to manage it. If you're managing it in Resi anyways, and you just need it pushed there,
yeah.
that's a way to do that.
So I think the reason why Dave was doing that this way is because when we would push it over, it would truncate the beginning and ending of the video, so we would lose a couple of
Oh,
seconds on both the front end and the back end. And so we contacted Resi, and they just said, "Well, what you do is you just put a bumper, the front and the back." And I said, "Well, that's fine, except that means a video editor has to touch every video, and we're putting up 4 a week, and so." To
yeah.
touch every video, render every video, they're 45 minutes. That's an hour of rendering, or maybe half an hour, and putting just to put on bumpers. And so then Dave's question was, well, why, if we know that truncation is an issue, why not have us load a thumbnail and just put that up there until the data stream is going across? And then, obviously Resi would be caching the whole video,
Hmm.
and you wouldn't have to edit it. It could just be the bumpers up there for a minute, and then it starts the live video, and people could scrub the bumper if they wanted. But anyway,
Yeah.
so it's like either we do the work or they do the work, but that was kind of the only answer that we had at the time.
Okay.
But yeah, we were having truncation issues where it was like not showing up the whole video. We would lose 30 seconds on the front end, and it would end prematurely.
When you sent it to YouTube.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Interesting.
I think his solution was, I don't know. I don't remember exactly what the thing was, but if he sends it to it live, then we get the whole thing, because I think I may be misquoting this. So
Yeah.
that's why he was doing it live and not any other way, is because then it sends the whole stream, it delays it until, and then it starts on frame 1 instead of
Yeah.
starting a little bit further in.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was an interesting problem that we were having, and I didn't know the answer to that right now is get a social media scheduler, and he can load all the videos in there and tell them all the platforms that he wants it to go to,
Yeah.
and then just
Yeah.
load it into our library in Resi. And then if we're using Resi as our library on our website, then it's all there available all at once.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. And the playlist feature in Resi is pretty cool, pretty slick to build playlists of
yes,
series and things like that there.
yeah, that looked pretty robust, and that'll probably be something we'll have to get into next time.
Yeah.
So let's just talk about getting started. We should mention pricing and that sort of thing and how that all works real quick, and then yeah, anything that you'd like to kind of follow or finish with.
Yeah. Well, this is This is going to sound hilarious, but we actually just rolled out a pricing change
Okay.
post NAB. So I'm actually, I'm like, I got that yesterday afternoon,
Mm-hmm.
and I haven't fully wrapped my head around that.
Sure.
But I know like the plan that you're on currently, like that, excuse me, that starter plan
Yep.
is 159 a month when you build annually. So whatever, it's just under 2,000 for the year
Right.
when you break it down. But then we have a lot of add-on features like the on-demand side,
Yep.
things like that are all add-ons. So there's the like that initial place to start starter light is, like I said, it's just over 1,900 for the year. The one big thing to keep in mind with RESI is because of our technology, we do have dedicated hardware. So like you have to have a RESI encoder.
Right.
We have several hardware options of that. And like you mentioned, when we were connecting earlier, you saw like our new mini encoder that does SDI.
Yep.
So we have a mini encoder with SDI that we just announced at NAB. I don't remember when that's going to start shipping, but it's not shipping yet. And then we do have a software encoder. I wish I hadn't talked about this, but we did partner with Renewed Vision to do a software encoder in ProPresenter 7. So, any subscription that you have with RESI gives you one software license. So
Got it.
no matter what subscription you have with RESI, you get one instance of ProPresenter that you can license as like a either a backup or a secondary if you need it.
Right. Which you can see here. This is what this is right here. It's this Bonacqua, Tennessee. That's my ProPresenter machine here. If I were to need to push something to RESI live,
Yep.
We actually go about it a little different way where we record locally on a hard drive here, and then I upload it to RESI, and I let my guy schedule it out, which is how we're doing live services when we need to pre-record.
Yeah. The biggest thing I always like to talk about with ProPresenter is, whatever your experience is with ProPresenter, it's a wonderful product when it works well, just like any software.
Yep.
But having a well spec'd out system is kind of the key.
Yep.
I had one church come. They said they had a hand-me-down i5 Mac Mini.
Nope.
And I said, "Good luck."
Yeah,
because they were insistent on using RESI streaming on an i5 Mac Mini. And I told them it wasn't going to work. And sure enough, they came back and said, "Yeah, this is not working. It's got all kinds of processing issues." And it was like audio video sync was just all over the place and dropping things.
Yeah,
and
it does seem that ProPresenter is expecting you to have the bare minimum of the latest version of like a Mac Mini or something. If you're a couple generations old, you're gambling, and they're expecting you to upgrade to like just buy the latest Mini and you'll be fine with base specs, and then they're good with that. But it does seem like that is common, that a lot of complaints online and stuff that I see is like, well, we don't have money for a new, we spent it all on the ProPresenter licensing. So then it's like, well, there's two parts of this conversation.
The biggest thing I always like to tell people is, I come from a traditional broadcast background where every vital piece of the signal flow should have its own dedicated piece of hardware.
Yes.
So in that, if you have the campus license of ProPresenter, then have a standalone dedicated ProPresenter system just handling your stream.
Right.
So, so that's kind of the thing there with ProPresenter. It's a great versatile solution because it can be a little bit more portable. But having the standalone hardware encoder, it's definitely a more viable option.
Yeah. And we have the server version, right? And that thing, it has always been working. I don't need to chat with sales. I'm currently chatting with sales. Um, yeah, it's the this has to work, and so since it has to work, we just went with the biggest one they offer, and it's a full on machine that is a server grade machine, and it works every Sunday. It's constantly on.
Yep.
Now it does scream at us if one of the power supplies go out, and we need to figure out how to turn that off, because if it went off, if we had one of our powers, like we have everything on battery backups, and those are on battery backups, and so it's unlikely we're going to lose power. But in the event that it goes off mid-service, we would not want the alarm going off. We'd like to be notified, but we don't necessarily need an audible alarm to go off. But anyways, that's minor. The actual hardware stuff, this is where I get into, like, that was one of my hesitations with vMix. It's like, yeah, but it's up to me to buy the machine to make sure it works right. Whereas I'd rather have an all-in-one, like a TriCaster, where you used to be able to buy the unit and then it works just out of the box. I like that better, that concept better than me having to supply the hardware to run the software, because I don't know what you spec this out on. Right. So, but that's if I had my way, and I did in this instance, to get the actual server grade encoder, and then it's not a question of whether or not it's going to work. This is your machine, like it's going to work on your server.
Yeah.
Well, this is really
Chad had a good call out in the chat. He said there's a silence button in the on the back of the server grade to silence the power supply beep.
So does that happen? Do you have to silence it while it's going off, or can you preemptively silence it?
That I don't know. I have not used the server grade encoder myself. I have the Ray encoder for my church.
Well, if you want to come over sometime, I'm happy to let you play around with your own hardware. It's a good one. We have lost power on one of our battery backups. It wasn't set to auto come back on, and so the batteries came on because the big batteries were doing a test. They're Tesla batteries, so they were doing tests, and one of them had a problem, and so it didn't come back, and then ours ran out. So the guy was like, man, there's like some screaming going on downstairs in the tech booth. So when we showed up, one of our battery backups hadn't come back, and so then the other one was still powering RESI, no problem, but it was screaming. And that's where I was like, yeah, it would be better if we had like a system where we got an email, because I get emails on my phone all the time where it's like, hey, RESI's detected one of the power supplies is off, but instead it just screams. And that would be a problem mid-service, because that would be audible from the microphones.
Yeah, I was going to say, you don't have an equipment rack or anything?
I mean, it's in an equipment rack, I'll put it that way, but it's upstairs in the booth, but it's still loud enough where everyone would hear it.
Yeah. Most of our churches that have the big server grades, and especially like the big one, and they have the GPU encoding turned off, they're like, it sounds like a freight train running through the sanctuary. So,
yes.
So they have that like hidden away
somewhere else.
All their stuff.
Yeah. All of ours, unfortunately, is in the booth, and that's just actually a byproduct of it growing over time. And so we had all the technical stuff in a single rack, and then we graduated to two minis, like two doubles, where the soundboard sits on top. And honestly, it was in an effort because we thought we were moving. So it was in a preemptive effort to, hey, if we got to roll out of here, all of our equipment needs to be in our cases. And so if we go somewhere else, we will obviously have a headroom where all that stuff will go. And
that's what I do every Sunday. We're a portable church. We roll in, roll out every Sunday.
Yep. Yeah, that's obviously all of our SDI lines are hard lined and everything, but it's like, we're trying to think 3 steps ahead, and the landscape keeps changing on us. So that's where we're at there. I just follow up here. Angus has enjoyed being a part of this community. That's good. I'm not sure what he says that seems a bit excessive about, but I'm sure he's right. I have an M1 Pro MacBook and an M2 Pro Mini, and both have plenty of horsepower.
Yeah.
QLab isn't trying to tell me to upgrade either of them to the M4. It's true. And it would be nice if ProPresenter would, not necessarily shoot for the the newest, latest, and greatest, but I understand the business model. It's like, well, look, you're using a 2-year-old machine. We're developing this on not 2-year-old machines. I get it. It's just kind of most churches I know don't have a budget like I have, and
Yeah, right.
they can't renew every time the license changes or every time they come up with a new version of it. They have to plan to purchase. They can't just go out and buy it. Yes, ProPresent are demanding that they have the latest hardware. That seems a bit excessive. It's true.
Yeah.
It unfortunately is a business plan, it appears. So
Yeah.
Awesome. Well,
John, I'm sorry, I have to run.
No, I told you we'd run you out. If you whatever time you gave me, we'll go right to the end. So I appreciate you coming along, man. Thank you so much for spending time. I'd love to have you back and talk again more about things that we didn't get to, but as time permits. I know you're a busy guy, which is a good thing because, business is busy and good. So, but thanks. I appreciate you, man. And be well.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure, as always. And we'll see you on the next time.
All righty, John.
Bye, Jeremy.
Take care.
You too.
Yeah.
Cheers. All right, folks. We will wrap things up here, I think, because we are at 11:30. I actually have a giant project going on outside right now. I alluded to it at the beginning when Jeremy joined us. Let me go over to, let me share this screen real quick, and I can show you what I've been up to. So yesterday I had a giant pile of dirt delivered to my front lawn, and there it is there. I took this picture through my front door window. My wife has a wreath on the front door. But anyways, so here we are. And this giant pile of topsoil got delivered to my front lawn. And so then I spent the whole afternoon, putting in these raised beds. Now, look at my lawn, which doesn't exist. That's what the rest of the dirt is for. And so there's a ton of it. But I did 4 of these boxes, which each took a couple of yard carts each of dirt. And so my hands are very calloused, and they're in a bit of pain. The callus in particular right next to my wedding ring. And so where I was gripping a shovel and pushing against that tungsten carbide. So anyways, that's unfortunate. But something I did want to bring you up to speed on before I ended today's show was, there, my little logo. Did you see that go off? That's something new too. As I was building out the vMix caller platform for Jeremy to join, I was like, I should put a little new logo up. So there's that. Something, though, is I did get the Cloud Dock 2, which was a product that I had been flirting with to increase my workflow when it comes to the soundstage in Brentwood. So, and to follow up on that dirt conversation, yay, dirt. It is heavy. So how's your back? Back feels good. I'm not as crazy sore as I thought I would be, but my hands are very sore. So there you go. Hey, your bug is not transparent. It's true. I tried to export it as a GIF file, but it did not work. And so it is just going to have to be this little animation for now, which is fine. I don't mind. But I've had to figure out how to automate it to turn off on its own. But it does show up on this screen automatically, which is kind of nice. Okay, so I to finish this up here, I did get the Cloud Dock 2, and it has an HDMI port which gives you a output for viewing, its activity and whatever. Now we haven't started using it yet, so I haven't actually had a live service at the soundstage since I installed this because the guys went to Scotland for a couple of weeks on a family vacation. So I'm waiting to use it. But the workflow right now, just briefly, is we record the files to an ATEM ISO Extreme SDI. It records 5 or 6 different cameras and audio sources to that. And then I take those files and I drag them over to Dropbox, to a specific folder in Dropbox. And once that's done, then that gets pulled down automatically to my Cloud Dock 2. And so that little printout, the little readout is here, which I can use in the capture card because I have an open HDMI port when I'm not playing games, which is pretty rare these days. And this is what it looks like. So I'm able to actually watch the live data, which means that I pull it over from the ATEM into Dropbox. And once it's done, then I can see it here. And there's an automation element that I'll talk about in 2 weeks. There's an automation element that I'm going to try and implement that basically at noon every Sunday, it takes the contents of the ATEM ISO hard drive and dumps it into the Dropbox folder. And so I'm going to do that next week. I'm going to automate that and then try it on the following Sunday, which is the first Sunday back. This Sunday's pre-recorded. The next one is a live service. And so we're going to do that on the following Sunday. And then that next week will be when I talk about this whole setup. So pretty excited that this is up and running. It's really kind of a cool thing. I did some live tests where I dragged a video file into the folder and it just automatically did it, pulled it down locally. And then when I'm inside DaVinci, it shows up as a native file. And they're all time-stamped, which means I can load them all in to the timelines and they'll all line up automatically, which is amazing. So big fan of that. I love the fact that this is kind of coming together and it's going to make my life a lot easier because right now, somewhere around here is an SD card. That's probably plugged into my computer. Somewhere around here is an SD card from the recording situation, the current, like, very basic recording situation that I have over at the soundstage. And every week I got to take the card out that we used and put it in my pocket and bring it home and export the files and then remember to take it back the next Sunday, which rarely happens. So I'm glad that this is no longer going to be required. Now, the files are going to be enormous, which means I really need to update my internet service here at the house, and so that this doesn't take me 3 days to get the video. But it is going to be great. So I'm pretty excited about that. Hey, what did you use to make it? Resolve supports ProRes with Alpha on both Mac and PC now. I had actually used Canva to make that. And so I could probably figure out how to export it without the background, more than likely. The one that I did export it with didn't look right. And so let me go here to overlays, and I can maybe bring in a separate one that is, there it is. Bring in this one, say okay, and then I'm going to need to adjust this size because it is it's pretty brutal. So let's go here to position, and I need to, see, it doesn't look, something's off here. All right, so go like this, pan it over here. It's like stretched out. It's weird. It doesn't look right. I need to almost change. Oh, you know what? Cancel this. Close this. What I'll do is I'll make a blank one, and I will add it as a layer. So let's add input. Sorry, I know this is riveting, especially after we just got done talking to, having a very interesting conversation with Jeremy about all this, about RESI, and now here I am worrying about the way my logo looks. But anyway, so if we wanted to not crop, but move and, not move, not crop necessarily. No, what is going on here? This is the one that I want. All right. This is not working as I expected. Oh, that might be why. There. So it's because this is the wrong dimensions. Why can't I change its size? This is odd. So if I were to just fire this, whoa, that's not cool. Why if I fire this one then? Nope. That's not an alpha background. Where did I go here? Hang on. There we go. Yoink. Let's over to me, everybody. Over. Weird. Now it won't even cut over to my cam 1. All right, let's get rid of this. Oh, that's why. Okay. So, let's change this to an alpha background. General. It's supposed to be. You broke it. Yeah, I know. I do that quite often. On the live stream as well, by the way. So quite often. Where do I change this to an alpha channel, I wonder? Because that's what this is. Well, that's what it's supposed to be. White balance, blah, blah, blah. Advanced, no. All right, so not there. So I've built this incorrectly, evidently. Let's close. Whoops. Oh, crap. I may have just closed the wrong one. Yep, I sure did. Well, that sucks. All right, well, whatevs. Let's try this one more time. Let's bring in perhaps an image. Is that what I'm doing here? This is a supported file. And if that's just an image. It's gotta be. No, that's not it either. This is so weird though. Like the way that it's showing like choppy even. It's not smooth. The video was smooth, but it must be the render. I don't know. I 100% did break it, but it is what it is. All right. What is this? Same thing. So forget that. Let's kill this one. All right, let's restore the old one that I mistakenly deleted. And you'll notice this one is a lot more square, right? Like and it runs smooth. So real bummer here that we screwed this up. But I will yoink layers, not here, triggers, on transition. This is number 3. And then I've just got to adjust position here. So we're going to shrink her down. Move it back over into the corner. Well, come on now. All right. So now we need to just change this trigger on transition, overlay 3. So if I fire this, does it go on its own? It should. We'll see here in a moment. It's supposed to be. Oh, you know why? Because I didn't notify there. All right, so cut. Now let's see if it'll go. Nope. I just forced that manually. What did I do? Just toss a Luma keyer on it in vMix and see how it looks. I don't think I've ever done that. So, oh. Okay. Let's see. That might be a little too aggressive. That's... Oh. Boom. It doesn't look great without the black background, though. No? Let's see. I mean, that's kind of cool. Now, how do I get this to be assigned as... Oh, there it is there. Okay, so now if I fire this, is it going to actually go? Haven't seen it yet. Let me change sources here. So if I cut, yoink, and then cut. Okay, we're back. Actually pulled up. Still waiting for it to go off on its own, which it's not. So let me... Oh, I see why. I have to put the correct edit. Thank you. All right, so now we're going to transition off of here. Let's see if that works. Does it show up on my little arm there? Bueller. Hey, oh, there it is. Okay. All right. I don't mind that. That looks kind of cool. Does it go away on its own? Why is it not going away on its own? It's supposed to... Oh, you know why? I know why. Because I deleted that. That's why. So on... Oh, I took a picture. I took a picture of these settings. So I believe it's on overlay out. Overlay 3. Out. Delay. 6,000 milliseconds. Add. So, cut. Paste. Whoops. Why are you on there? Get out of here. Okay, here we go. Cut. There's the logo. Comes up on time. And it fades out. There it is. All right. Circle gets the square. So... I like that. That's kind of cool. I didn't realize that I could quickly get rid of the backgrounds on that stuff that fast. So that's cool. I did want to show you this though, that our this is the actual Cloud Dock interface, and it shows what's going on at any given time. So it shows you what files are being downloaded. It shows you how much hard drive is being used. All the little beehive things are individual, file sizes basically. And so as we're going to transfer data, that will show how full it is. And I've got 2 hard drives in here that are both 2 terabytes. And so I'm predicting something close to 600 or 700 gigs every Sunday. So we should be good. But what I like a lot about this is if I make changes in Dropbox, it will make those changes here. So what I can do then is I can take I can work with files this week, but then I don't have to perpetually keep all those files, and it will auto clean them up for me. So that's pretty neat. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. So, for example. Oh, yeah.
That's pretty neat.
I don't know if you heard that. Let's try that again. Oh, still not the right one. It's this one. Whoops.
How neat is that? That's pretty neat.
It is pretty neat, and I love the fact that it's working. So pretty excited about that, and that show's going to be a lot of fun. That's in 2 weeks. Next week, we're going to talk about PepLink, and we're going to talk about how we're going to do internet in remote locations, which is one of the big projects that we have underway right now with Safe Harbor. So join me next week as we talk about PepLink, and we talk about what we're thinking about doing there, and also a little side project that I'm thinking about doing. So that's going to be kind of exciting as well. So all of that and more coming up next week as we look forward to talking a little bit more about PepLink, a little bit more about Blackmagic Cloud 2, of course more about BirdDog eventually. But we also then apparently need to have another meeting with Jeremy, because today's little lunch and learn was fantastic and full of useful information. My logo just froze. But full of useful information. The problem is that there's still too much to talk about. So we maybe I need to win on overlay in delay. That's probably what it is. So here's that Blackmagic Cloud dock again, and I need to get rid of my logo because it's over my face. But anyway, so we do want to talk, and hopefully my logo will work this time. We do want to talk more about all of that, and how, what RESI's up to, and how they're actually helping a lot of churches out in, situations that they find. There we go. We did fade. To get high levels of broadcast quality. Like, for example, there's another church here in Nashville that I know is using RESI, but they're using it as an encoder-decoder, and they have an off-site multi-campus. And what they're doing there is they're recording their early morning service, and then they're setting the start point for the sermon, and then the next campus gets started like 30, 40, 50 minutes later, and then they just hit play when the sermon is supposed to start. And even if the minister is still teaching while it's being recorded, it's all being sent up, and they can watch it pretty much on a fairly close delay. So even if their church service started 30 minutes later than the main campus, they could watch the sermon because it's going up in a resilient format. So that's so stinking cool that's how that works. And yeah, I'm pretty impressed with RESI. And more on them soon. We're likely slated to upgrade and start building out our community on our own site. So lots more to discuss there. Take care of yourselves. Thank you so much for joining us today, and hopefully you have found it valuable. As always, hit that subscribe button for me, because is that this one? Nope. Is it this one? Don't I have a subscribe button somewhere? Let's find out. Nope. Nope. That's the timer. No, somehow I don't have a subscribe button. How is that right? Oh, is it this one? What is this? No, I don't like that at all. So off you go. We will. It's all like it's a GIF file. All right. Well, have a great week. We will see you guys next week. Talk more about PepLink. Thank you so much for coming by, Angus. Always a pleasure to see you. And definitely be sure that you subscribe to the channel so that you know when we go live. I've got the next 2 weeks planned out. That caffeine's kicking in, apparently, because I'm talking a mile a minute. And we can definitely just use my comment. There you go. We can definitely see, we'll be seeing more. I'm going to try really hard to make more topical shows, because I think that helps drive traffic and also create some interest instead of just me gambling on us coming up with something. However, in the past, I have had shows that I didn't know what we were going to talk about, and we ended up having really interesting conversations. So there's good things to both. But anyways, hey, what's going on, Steven? Good to see you. Hey, John, and see you later. I just jumped into the stream and you started signing off. So alas. Yes, today was a great little lunch and learn, though. So go back and watch the live stream from Jeremy, because we talked about RESI, and yeah, definitely some great insights there as to what's available in the future. But in the meantime, take care of yourselves, folks. Really appreciate you coming along, and we will catch you guys in the next one. As always, next week, right around 10 o'clock, we'll get going again, and we'll talk about PepLink. Bye, guys, and special thank you to Jeremy for hanging out with me today. Bye, guys.